All right. Hey, good day to you. Hey, this is Stan Pachowski, and this is from Pachowski Estate Law, and this is the Ask Stan show every Thursday at 12 noon. Right on time, or pretty darn close for uh, by my standards. So, hey, this is a June. No, it's not June. It's July the 2nd. Getting ready for a 4-day weekend, 3-day weekend, I guess, for July the 4th. If we still have a July Independence Day, who knows? I'm still going to celebrate it. But anyway, it's July the 2nd. It's 12 noon. Ask Stan for questions. I didn't have a question to go over, but there is something I wanted to cover that some questions have come up about, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you something that we can do. I'm going to share the screen. Can I share the screen on Facebook Live? I've never done that. I wanted to. You know what? I don't see exactly how to do that. Wait a minute, it's down here. All right, I have a little trouble here. I'm trying to figure out. I don't see how to share the screen in a Facebook Live feed. And that's what I wanted to do. Well, okay. I guess we'll have to do something a little different then, because I guess I could ask Alex, but I don't want to take up time. Well, what we're going to do, I was going to go over a Medicaid planning profile. So I guess I'll go over that verbally. It'll be unfortunately, we'll have to go through some numbers. But I wanted to discuss, the question that came up is a lot of people ask me the question is, do I need to do what I call Medicaid planning? What that means is, if we're ever going to get stuck with the cost of health care, am I in that boat? Because, I often tell people to sit down and tab up what they're worth. I give the example that I had to do this years ago when I wanted to take out a line of credit with the bank. And they gave me a 3 or 4 page financial statement, and I had to list everything I own and put a value on it. When you get to the end of it, I tell people you'll usually be pretty shocked at what your net worth is. I mean, it's a whole lot more than you think. You've got a lifetime of accumulated wealth, lifetime, and it's surprising what you're actually worth. So some people say, well, if I've got, $600,000-800,000 worth of wealth, that sounds like a lot. I probably don't have to worry about Medicaid training or cost of care because I own too much. I'll never go, I won't be in the nursing home. Well, that's a misunderstood concept, and that's what I wanted to show you. I wish I could do the screen sharing, but I don't know how on Facebook. I meant to look at this ahead of time, but anyway, I'll just go through it verbally. And I'll be looking at a form that I was going to put up there, but maybe we can go through the numbers. Basically, if you figure out what your income is, and I'm going to take the average person, 65 or above, somebody receiving Social Security, probably basically retired, who's worried about long-term health care. So let's say they have $2,500 worth of income, coupled between them. Okay, so we've got $2,500 worth of income. I have one of those sheets that it calculates it for you. Now, I would ask them, well, how that income, how much of it do you spend every month? What do you need to live? And, the typical answer would be something like $2,000 out of the $2,500. So if that's the case, we plug that into our form, and it gives us a leftover, or what's called a monthly disposable income, and that's $500. So if you make $2,500 a month in income, takes you $2,000 a month to live, every month you got $500 left over that could be used for the cost of health care, right? I mean, because it's a surplus, so it's a disposable. And when you're dealing with health care, the general rule under the Medicaid Act is that all income, or income that's not being used by the healthy spouse, all income has to go toward the cost of care. So if you have $2,500 worth of income, you got somebody in the nursing home, and you use $2,000 of it to maintain your standard of living, $500 of it's going to be left over. That's going to go towards the cost of care. I mean, by law, it has to. So you get $500 that can go to that. Now, we say, what's the average cost of a nursing home or health care in your area? Well, around here, the average cost is $6,000. I'm just going to use that as a $6,000. Now, if you have $500 that can go towards that, you're going to have what is called a shortfall for the cost of care, and that's going to be $5,500. So it's simple math, okay? You got $6,000 what it costs a month for the spouse, the institutionalized spouse, to be there. You have $500 left over that can go towards that cost, so you're falling short every month $5,500. Now we're going to translate that into a year, and you guessed it, we're going to do $5,500 times 12 to give us, so we're going to have an annual shortfall of $66,000. So again, let me go through that. You have $500 and go towards the cost of care. The cost of care is $6,000 a month. You're in the hole $5,500 to pay for it if you were paying for it. Over a year, that's going to be $66,000. So the theory is, what position do we have to be into to not be in this boat and worry about it? So we need investable assets that will give us $66,000 a year, right? Now, I'm not talking about your house. I'm talking about investable assets. So that's money in the bank, money in an Edward Jones account. Now what we got to do, here's we're going to take a guess at something. And what I got to put into this sheet is, let's take a guess at an expected annual rate of return. I could put 5% in there, but that's not very realistic. There's very few investments right now that yield 5%. I'm going to use 3%, or no, I think I do use 5%. But I'm going to use 5%, but that's not very realistic. But if I put in realistic numbers, you probably won't believe me when we get to the end of it, because typically you may not even get 3% on a rate of return. If you put just money in the bank, it's less than a single percent. It's like 0.7% on a savings account. So it's really kind of, we're taking a stab at this, but if you put it in something stable, you might be able to secure 3%. But I'm going to use 5 because it keeps our numbers down a little bit. So at expected rate of return, so we put in here, we put 0.05. That's 5%, okay? Now, what that means is, if we can put money, if we have investable assets to keep us from actually paying, or let me put it, to generate enough money to actually pay for the nursing home for an institutionalized spouse, we're going to need $1,320,000 in investable assets. All right. Give you an idea, if we put in a more realistic number of 0.3 or 3%, we're going to need $2.2 million of investable assets. Do you have that? The average person will say, well, I don't have that much to invest. Okay, well, then we're telling ourselves we need Medicaid planning, because I'm going to add a few more things in here, because now let's add in the value of the home. I'll put a very modest value of $150,000. Now, most homes are much more than that, but let's put that in there. Let's put in the value of a car. What's the value of a car? We'll say $10,000. I mean, that's even probably a little bit low, okay? And let's put in the cost of prepaid funerals. Let's, if it's a couple, it's probably $10,000 a whack. So let's say $20,000 in that. So what that gives us is a final number. You have to have a total net worth of $2,380,000. All right, including all that stuff. If you don't have that, if you don't have $2,380,000, specifically $2,200,000 of it being investable assets, then you need Medicaid training. So the average person has got $2 million and say, I don't need that. If I go to nursing home, I got enough money, I'll just pay for it myself. Au contraire. I mean, the numbers don't lie. This is what it's going to cost. And if you listen to my radio show, I said $6,000 was the average health care for this Medicaid profile that I generated. That's going to change with this pandemic and what I like to call the shitstorm. The cost of health care is going to skyrocket, because now, as we come out of this, and all these deaths in healthcare, I mean, they're going to be dealing with lawsuits that they're trying to get the legislature to give them immunity on. So the families of people who died in the healthcare facility can't sue them, because that would put them out of business. They're going to have to redesign their space, and things that were now shared space may have to be private. So we're going to have more space and less residents, the cost of that. So we have less residents and a higher cost. They're going to have to hire more trained people that can deal with these kind of pandemics, because a lot of these deaths were caused by people that just didn't have the knowledge of how to deal with it. Protective equipment. I mean, there is a long laundry list of things nursing homes are going to have to do different than what they did this time around. And it's all going to be increased cost. And who's going to pay that cost? The residents, or through the Medicaid system. So these numbers are like pre-pandemic. So you can count on them going up afterward. So the bottom line is, if you got less than $2.2 million in investable assets, you need Medicaid planning. You need to think about it. Now, what that means you can do is, if you haven't got that, then let's do some asset protection planning. Let's make sure that your home and that car don't get taken into this for the cost of care. Let's protect those assets now, way ahead of time, before we have to go to the nursing home and get that taken care of. Then Medicaid will pay your bill for you, but they can't come back around and take what you own to offset the cost of care that they've paid. That's what asset protection is. That's what we do here, and it works like a champ. We do it all the time. I think we did 3 of them just this week. I mean, we've got an increased interest in this asset protection, because it's only going to get worse, folks. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So that's that. I'm at 10 or 11 minutes. I like to keep this to 10 minutes, 15 tops. I'll just go over what's coming up this Tuesday. Today's July the 2nd. July the 7th is Tuesday. I'm doing something along these lines. It's simply called Wills, Trust, and the Nursing Home. We're going to cover the whole gambit of stuff. We're doing it once that day as opposed to twice. So I'm going to do it live at 6 p.m. on June. Can't hardly believe it's July. We're going to do it once at 6 p.m. on July the 7th, Wills, Trust, and Nursing Home. Call us or go to this Facebook page to get the link. Tune in at 6 o'clock. It's going to be a live seminar, live presentation, but you won't want to miss that one. I mean, if you haven't seen one of my seminars, this is a good one. But if you have seen some of mine, we're going to cover some of the aspects that we're talking about. And, this asset protection to me, is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Our legislature has given us these laws to create these trusts to level the playing field for people that get stuck going into long-term care. I mean, you may never need it. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. You may get a disease that doesn't require long-term care. If you get one that requires long-term care, they're going to clean you out. If you get one that doesn't, Medicare will pay for all that and you'll be okay. But you don't know. All we do know is that 7 out of 10 people 65 and older require some form of long-term care. So those statistics are heavily, heavily in the favor of saying chances are we're going to need some kind of long-term care. And the other statistic, which is probably going to change now, is that 70% of the people that do go into long-term care will become impoverished. You know what impoverished means? It means broke within 1 year. Everything will be consumed. So here's a way to protect stuff so that it doesn't get consumed and you still qualify for Medicaid. It's called asset protection while still qualifying for Medicaid. That's the way to go. So give it some thought. Come to the seminar. Give me a call. The sooner the better, because we got some time requirements we have to design around. And they start when we make the trust and put property in it. So if you want to think about it, that's fine. But if you're interested in doing this, give me a call and let's get the ball rolling and get started. The sooner the better. So, hey, okay, that's the Ask Stan show for July the 2nd, 2020. We talked about the Medicaid profile and the fact that if you've got less than $2.2 million of investable assets, now it doesn't include the cost of the home, investable assets, then you need to do Medicaid planning, or what I call Medicaid planning. It's not welfare. It's not for the poor people anymore. It's just not, it never has been and it never will be. If you haven't got that kind of money, which 99.9% of my clients and the rest of the world don't, then you need this. So don't overlook it. Come see me and we'll do it. All righty. I appreciate it. I'm going to end the transmission. Next time I might go over this again. I'll figure out how to screen share and put these documents up here so you can look at the documents. I'm just technically challenged on this sometimes, and I'm used to my GoToWebinar and my YouTube and stuff where I can access and do screen sharing. I wasn't able to do it on this, so I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just haven't figured it out. So okay, thanks a lot. This is Stan Pachowski. See you next Thursday at 12 noon for the Ask Stan Show.